Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the most irresistible culinary mysteries of the modern age. We're looking closely at how three incredibly simple, completely unrelated foods somehow collided across history to create a massive billion-dollar global dessert craze. Just think about that cozy and nostalgic scene for a second. You know the one. The warm lighting, the crackling wood of a campfire, the slow-motion roasting of a marshmallow on a stick. It's this beautiful shared ritual. But have you ever wondered why millions of families do this every single summer? Like, who actually invented this exact combination of ingredients? And why on earth is it called a s'more? Well, here is the central inciting incident of our story. S'mores are actually a massive historical anomaly. As our source material points out, this isn't some ancient recipe passed down intact from a single culture. No way. They simply couldn't exist until three very separate, historically disconnected foods already existed and, crucially, were heavily industrialized. Just look at this vast historical journey. We've got chocolate originating way back in ancient Mesoamerica, then thousands of miles away and in a completely different context, the marshmallow plant being used in ancient Egypt, and finally, fast forward all the way to the 19th century, where a guy named Sylvester Graham created a very specific type of cracker. These ancient, totally culturally distinct items literally had to wait centuries for modern manufacturing to finally bring them all together at the exact same campsite. Let's actually start by looking at that foundation. Sylvester Graham definitely didn't invent his cracker for sugary campfire treats. He originally created it for strict dietary and health purposes. It was only over time that this rigid, kind of plain health food dramatically evolved into the sweeter, crisp graham cracker foundation we know and love today. So, let's move on and see how this builds with our second ingredient, the marshmallow. It started out as an ancient medicinal botanical remedy derived from the mallow plant in Egypt. Centuries later, French confectioners refined it into a fluffy sweet, but it really wasn't until modern industrial manufacturing stepped in that it became the uniform, mass-produced, perfectly roastable cube that we can just toss in a bag for a weekend trip. And finally, we have chocolate's journey to the campfire. From its ancient Mesoamerican origins, it traveled all the way to Europe, where it eventually evolved with the invention of milk chocolate. But here's the thing. The final, absolutely necessary puzzle piece for our dessert craze was the industrial mass production of chocolate bars. Because without easily accessible, affordable, and perfectly breakable chocolate bars, the campfire treat as we know it just wouldn't work at all. Okay, so when did these three industrialized ingredients finally meet? Well, while there are a bunch of unverified stories floating around, the documented history points us clearly to 1927. The very first official printed recipe uniting all three ingredients appeared in a publication called Tramping and Trailing with the Girl Scouts. And the blueprint laid out in that 1927 publication is literal and beautifully simple, yet it completely changed outdoor recreation forever. Step 1, toast the marshmallow. Step 2, add the chocolate. Step 3, sandwich it with grahams. It was this accessible, foolproof blueprint that absolutely anyone could execute out in the woods with almost zero equipment. Now, what's really interesting here is the name itself. S'more is basically an evolution of the phrase some more. It was a playful origin coined specifically to describe the irresistible, habit-forming nature of these combined ingredients. The idea was super simple. You eat one, and you immediately, instinctively ask for some more. But why did this specific 1927 recipe explode into a massive cultural phenomenon? Well, it perfectly coincided with the huge rise of campfire culture in America. We saw the rapid expansion of national parks, the boom in family summer vacations, and the huge growth of summer camps and scouting. S'mores became permanently and inextricably associated with campfires simply because they grew up right alongside the booming outdoor recreation industry. Which brings us to the science of the perfect s'more: heat, expansion, and caramelization. It all basically comes down to a micro-narrative happening right over the fire, driven by what scientists called the Maillard reaction. When you hold that marshmallow over the heat, its internal structure expands. At the exact same time, the surface caramelizes. That specific chemical reaction between amino acids and reducing sugars is exactly what creates that perfect golden crust and gives the toasted marshmallow its distinctive, complex, and totally irresistible flavor. Then, you combine that with sensory psychology. Just look at this texture contrast. You have the crisp, snapping graham cracker fighting against the soft, gooey, expanding marshmallow. And then there's the chocolate.
The specific melting point of the mass-produced chocolate perfectly aligns with the ambient heat radiating off that gooey marshmallow, creating an absolute melt-in-your-mouth textural masterpiece.
Of course, the sensory perfection of this treat means it definitely didn't stay at the campsite forever. Today, we eat s'mores as holiday treats, party desserts, cafe specials, and seasonal menu items. But I do want to highlight a very important historical note from our sources here. Culturally, they are exclusively treats. Despite their immense popularity, they are rarely, if ever, considered a traditional breakfast food in any country. They belong strictly to the evening, the party, and the dessert platter. And this brilliantly illustrates just how far this campfire trick has actually traveled. What started as a distinctly American outdoor recreation tradition has exploded into a full-blown international dessert phenomenon. In Canada, they're menu staples. In Australia, they pop up in bakeries. In the UK, they're beloved seasonal treats. And over in Japan and South Korea, they have evolved into highly trendy gourmet variations. And speaking of those gourmet variations, the modern craze is wild. Bakeries and cafes have adapted those core 3 ingredients into high-end culinary trends. We are talking s'mores cookies, brownies, cheesecakes, milkshakes, croissants, and yeah, even dessert pizzas. The flavor profile is just so incredibly strong that it translates into almost any baked good you can think of. Zooming out to examine the business impact for a second, we really have to recognize the massive scale of the s'mores economy. The seasonal sales driven by this one single dessert concept create enormous revenue. It is a huge driver for chocolate brands, marshmallow manufacturers, and the broader camping industry. Literally, entire business quarters rely heavily on the summer campfire rush. In fact, it is so deeply ingrained in our collective culture that it even has its own verified day. August 10th is officially National S'mores Day. This really proves just how specific and deeply beloved this historical combination has become in popular culture over the last century. And people take this very seriously, by the way. According to Guinness World Records, enthusiasts have literally engineered and built massive constructions of grahams, chocolate, and marshmallow just to claim the verified title of the largest s'more ever made. It's a true testament to the sheer fun and scale of this food. But ultimately, the food science and the history all tie back to a very powerful emotional legacy. Like, why do we love them so much? It's the deep-rooted nostalgia, the tactile process of making them, the smoke, the sticky fingers, the specific aroma. It instantly triggers powerful childhood memories, shared family traditions, and just that ultimate comfort food appeal. So the crucial point to take away is this. S'mores are not just a dessert. They are a shared generational experience. The true magic isn't simply in the ancient origins of the 3 ingredients. It's in the communal act of gathering around a fire with the people you care about to make them together. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. I really want to leave you with this. What is your absolute favorite s'mores memory? And after learning about the ancient history, the industrialization, and the science of the Maillard reaction, will you ever look at a simple campfire the exact same way again?